Okay, video 3, availability tracking, new stuff. So first things first, availability tracking update emails will only come to you if you have gone into this admin menu, My Preferences, and you'll see there's this setting, Send Alert Emails. Have to set that to yes, and then the system will send me emails updating me to the availability of items on my watch list. It'll only send emails if something has changed on your watch list, so you won't get an email saying nothing changed. If that needs to be changed, then shout up, but it seemed like the least invasive procedure, really. During normal working, every night the system looks at what's changed, so it'll try and import any files that have been updated from the vendors and then go through and check everybody's profiles and send any emails. Obviously, in developing and testing, it's not ideal to wait 24 hours. So we've got this Send Alerts Update button here, which I'm not sure. We might leave it or we might take it out when we really go live. Clicking it, pardon me, clicking it will go through the motions of trying to send me an alert email for any titles on my watch list that have changed since it last ran. So if anything has changed, I'll get an email, but then if I click it again a few seconds later, I won't get an email because basically it doesn't tell you twice about things that have changed. The reason for that is that night on night we're seeing quite a large volume of changes. So if you see 10 changes the first night, then 20 the third night, second night, and 30 the third night, those emails can become very unwieldy very quickly. So it's just what's changed since you last checked. The first time you ask for an email, you'll get the last week's changes, but after that it remembers when you last checked and it'll tell you what's changed since you last asked for an email. And normally that's between every night when the system runs, but as I said, if you click this button you can get an update immediately, and you'll see why that's useful in a second. I'm going to go into title search. So we adopted a bib frame model for this application, and what that means is that the titles you see here are instance level data. So a title instance is a little bit like a specific edition of a title, or the electronic versus the print version of a title. We have an object above the instance called the work, which is the abstract representation of the intellectual work. So if I search for this title, which I'm going to use for some of my testing, we can see that we've got this title in the system. Minimal information about it, but you can see the important thing is it's not available anywhere. So we know about this title for whatever reason, but we've never actually seen a copy of it in a publisher's list of what's been made available in a particular package. So it's an item we know something about in an abstract sense, but we're not aware of it being available on any platform. Pardon me. Inside the title screen we have this work element. So this is what a lot of the work has been between the last time we met and now. We've introduced this concept of a work. If I click on this, you'll see it's minimal data because all the work does really is to group together all the instances of a title. And you can see here there's only one instance listed under this work currently, which is this title, the one we were just looking at. So there's one work and one instance at the moment, and the important thing is this has an identifier, which is here. Now it just so happens that I know that we have got this title because when we ingested the University of York watch list, the Health Medical Library, this happens to be the first title in that watch list. So if I click there, I get to the same title. So that's just a little bit of background of what we've been changing deep down in the model in order to make these changes. This is my dashboard screen, and you can see that I've got some groups, a group that I manage, University of JISC, and a group that I'm a member of, University of Giscard as well. And you can see here are all the watch lists that I'm currently watching, as it were, pardon my English. When you log onto this screen for the first time, unless somebody has added you to some organizations, you won't see anything. So you're going to have to go in. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new organizational group. So I'm going to create a group called NoInt. There we go. And obviously this NoInt group is going to have some users in it. So I'd like to add myself to it. There's me, and I'm going to say that's approved. And I can be an administrator. I've got some other test users. I might as well just add while I'm here. So I've got a user called user A, imaginative. Okay, so you can see how we add users, and what happens is when one of these users logs onto the system now, that organization NoInt will be listed here. So I'm logged in as admin at the moment. In fact, just let me add admin to the users list, and then you'll see it appearing. So I go back to my dashboard, and now you can see I've added NoInt. So I'm a member of 2 organizational groups, and this list over here will show the aggregation, if you like, all the lists from all the organizations I'm in. The reason that we've done it this way is that we didn't want individual staff members at an institution all having their own copy of the high demand print use list, for example. So we would like those lists to be owned at an organizational level and shared amongst groups of users. And that's really just an efficiency thing, because it turns out that overnight, when we're trying to compare all these watch lists, we have to do a lot less work if we can do it based at an institutional level rather than individual user level. There's no reason, of course, why I couldn't create an organizational group which is Ian at NoInt, and I would just have my private lists in there. And so it's basically an easy way to share lists amongst groups of users. That's what that's all about. I'm going to go back to my my new list now. So here's the member section, and then beneath that we've got this folders and collections. So these are basically the watch lists for this institution, and we currently don't have any. I can add individual watch lists by name, but that's not very useful. Instead, what's most useful is the ability to load a title list. So this is using the reading list formats basically that we consulted on. And if you follow this link that says format, you'll be taken to a wiki page which describes in quite a lot of detail the list format that we'd like to be able to load. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Browse and Dev. And what I've got is I've created a title list called II Title List 2. I click Upload, and that's going to chug away in the background now, and you can see that eventually it's come through. And so the list name is II Title List 2. The owner institution is NoInt in this case, so I can click on this, and you can see that this watch list only contains one item, which is the title that I started out on this little journey, Ganong's review of Ganong's review, pardon my pronunciation, of medical physiology. So back to this, not available anywhere. Part of the difficulty in testing availability tracking is that I don't want to wait 24 hours so that I can see whether or not this item magically appeared. So what I have are a set of test scripts where I can basically emulate, pardon me, the effects of this title suddenly becoming available in a package. So I'm going to run this script, and what this script is doing is emulating what happens overnight. And best way to try and explain this is my upload script here was using a source called the test provider, and it's created a package called availability test. So if I go search packages, package name availability test. Okay, then I will stop recording because something hasn't worked. Oh no, there we go. No, it worked. I'm going to carry on. Phew. Test provider, and here's my availability test package. And we can see that there's one title in this availability test package, which is a copy of that work. Now, I'm going to just click on this title link. You will see that, well, you might not have noticed, if you go back in the video and look at the title we were looking at before, it had a different ID. And the reason for that is that this title has very, very different ISBNs and other identifiers besides. So this title represents maybe another edition of this book, or maybe this is the electronic edition, and what was in the list, the high demand print list, was the print ISBN. So what we've got is an electronic version of a title has become available, but what we loaded into our watch list was the print ISBN. So if I click on the work link here, you'll see that now I have two title instances underneath this work header, and here was my original title instance, and here's my new one. So this has just become available. And you can see that for this specific item, I've got availability in my test package. Now, because of all the work that I've done setting up my watch lists, in particular this NoInt watch list here, II title list 2, and I happen to know that this is also on the Biosciences watch list here. And I also happen to know that in this University of York, I think it is, medical list, it was also the first item. You can see where I copied this data from. So I'm going to go into my profile screen, and ordinarily this would be picked up overnight and sent to me as an update, but I'm going to trigger this update now. So hopefully what's happened in the background is that the system has gone through everything and said, were there any titles that changed overnight off my watch lists? And I don't know if you can see the text here, but what we've got basically a notification as we were working out the email that there were 3 things that looked suspicious that we've added to an email. So what I'm hoping now is that if I go into my email, I've got this email from Global Open KB. We could change the email account, but it's just convenient to reuse one rather than setting up a new one. And we've got this email. And basically all we've got here are the fact that here are my 3 watch lists where this item appeared. And you can see a link to the title that was put into the watch list. So this is actually the title, the ISBN, if you like, of the item in the watch list, and I can open that in a new tab. And there it is. Here's my one identifier of 00717. Then I've got the watch list work. So this is if I want to know what was the abstract academic intellectual work that was mentioned, which might be useful. Then I've got the actual match title. So although I'd cited the print book in my watch list, the actual one that matched was this other one, which hopefully represents the electronic item. And then I've got a link to the package where this item appeared and what happened. And it tells me that this item was added at 2016-09-26 at well. So what this date represents is the date we detected that this title had appeared in the package. And that's why it's exactly the same for all 3, because it was the same package that hit all 3 of these watch lists. So you can see that I can link through to the package. And of course, it might be that I subscribe to this package, or it might be that I don't subscribe to this package, and therefore I can't get to the title. In essence, that's the framework that we've got in place. If a title's removed, we get a removed link here instead with a date. If a title was added and removed, or removed and added, then I get informed of both things here and the dates and times when it happened. That can happen sometimes, especially if there are changes things can be removed and then very quickly reappear, or things can appear very briefly and then disappear if they're not, if they shouldn't have been there. And sorry, I missed this link as well. So this should be a link through to the watch list itself, in case I want to do anything there. Yeah, so that's pretty much where we're at with the availability tracking. You'll find, obviously, I cleared my my alerts down before I sent this. Some nights there are lots of changes to the packages, so the bigger your watch lists, the bigger this email can get. So that might be an issue we need to address at some point soon. But I think we're ready for this to hit end users and for people to play with it, because it seems to be working quite well. We've made quite a lot of progress on the performance of loading these packages. If I just very quickly go search packages, you'll notice we get this this update here that is just a note for me about how well we're doing in terms of performance, and we're currently managing 35 milliseconds per row of an ingest file, so that's 102,000 titles an hour that we can churn through this package, which is sufficient. But in doing the work we've hit on a couple of major optimizations, I think we can get this number up by a factor of 10 or more. So that's good news to be able to ingest 1 million titles an hour as we're checking for updates every night. And of course we don't process packages that haven't changed overnight, so that reduces the burden as well. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow in Manchester, but if you can't make it, or if you want to review what I talk about, that's why this video is here. All feedback and comments are very welcome. Okay, bye-bye.